Yo ho ho! Welcome to my first ever reading vlog. So it is currently Tuesday the 28th of July and it feels a little bit weird starting a reading vlog on a Tuesday, but I'll explain why now. So I finished reading The Count of Monte Cristo on Sunday night. Absolutely loved it. It was brilliant. It was a 5-star read. It was everything that I hoped it would be and more. Definitely recommend. You're going to be sick of hearing me talk about it by the end of the year, but anyway, I won't gush about it too much. But because I read The Count of Monte Cristo for an entire month, basically I'm 10 books behind on my reading challenge now. So my goal for this week is to get back on track with my Goodreads reading challenge, and this morning I went down to the library to get a couple of books. I ordered in a heap of books a couple of weeks ago and only one's shown up so far, and I figured, do you know what, I'll go down and collect this because I got nothing else to do this morning, and if I find any other books that have been on my radar, sure, I'll pick those up too. So the first book that I picked up is Blood and Guts in High School by Kathy Acker. So Kathy Acker is a figure that I've wanted to read for quite some time. I was actually referenced in a book that I read not so recently, and I feel like it was the universe trying to tell me, like, you need to read Blood and Guts in High School. It's time. So this is going to be the first book that I read for this week because it's very short and I'm going to be a bit cheeky, and, you know, this is actually the only, like, thin book that I'm going to be reading this week. I don't know how on track I'm going to be by the end of it. I'm hoping to read like 3 books. That would be ideal. 2.5 would also be ideal. But this is a coming of age story. I know that it had a lot of criticism at the time when it came out because Kathy Acker actually plagiarizes some work in this. And the way that this is set up is that it's kind of like a scrapbook or a journal, because there's like there's drawings in it, but there's also like dream maps, and it just, if you've ever flipped through it, it's just a little bit weird. So and the way it's written seems to be like it's in a script format, with character direction as well. So I'm interested to see what I think of this. I feel like it's going to be a bit of a rough read though. And then the next book that I picked up is Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy, Allison. I hate when I just go blank when I just pick up a book, but yeah, so Bastard Out of Carolina was supposed to be one of the book cult reads for this year, but I actually put the book cult on pause because of the virus, and I just don't want people stressing out about trying to get books or buying books, because I rely heavily on the library for the book cult, and I know a good few of you also do, so I just don't want to be wasting anyone's like time or money when there's, you know, other things that are priority at the moment. But this is about a young girl in the 1950s, I believe, and it sounds like it's going to be another rough read. I feel like by the end of this week, I'm just going to be really down in the dumps with everything that I'm going to be reading. But this is about a young girl whose mother moves in with this new boyfriend or man. And basically, it sounds like he's going to be very abusive and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, but I've heard nothing but good things about the actual book. So fingers crossed that has like a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. The next book that I picked up, which is the one that I actually ordered in, is The Colour Purple by Alice Walker. I've been meaning to read The Colour Purple for yonks now, and I'm finally getting to it, so I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like we all know what The Colour Purple is about, and flipping through it earlier, it is in letter format, and I've been told time and time again through watching BookTube over the years that it's in letter format, but I didn't realize that until earlier. So I'm kind of a bit iffy about starting something that's letter format, but to be fair, I have been getting on a bit better with books written like this. I feel like me being picky about the letter format isn't going to be really an issue when it comes to this actual story. And then finally, the last book that I got was The Terror by Dan Simmons. This actually took me freaking ages to find in the library this morning because they'd put it in the wrong section. So it took me about 20 minutes or so to actually come across it. I mentioned this in my horror books that I need to read video recently, and I am going to try to read it. But look, so what do you think the page count on that is? Because I thought it was around 600 pages or so, but it's actually 900. It's over 900 pages. And coming off reading a 1200 page novel, 900 pages does not sound very appetizing, but we'll see. The font is actually quite big in this, so that might actually make a big difference, but I might not actually get to this week. It just depends how I feel. Probably, if I do get to it, probably be at the weekend. So yeah, I'm going to be starting by reading Blood and Guts in High School, so I will check in with you later to see how I'm getting along with that. So excuse the weird 80s headband, but I just did my skincare routine for the night and I'm extra glossy, so I don't want to get moisturizer in my hair. So that's all that's about. But I finished reading Blood and Guts in high school there about an hour ago, and honestly, I feel like I need more time to come to terms with everything that I was presented with in this, because there's a lot going on considering it's so short. First of all, I had no clue of what it was actually about before I started it. This is about a young girl. She's 10 years old when we first meet her, and I think she ages up to about 14 by the end of the story. But she is in a sexual relationship with her father, and even just right off the bat, like the dynamic of that relationship and all her insecurities that she has about it, of her father potentially leaving her for another woman, was really interesting to read about, but also just terribly sad. Like, that was my overwhelming feeling finishing the story, was that it was just awfully sad. But what struck me the most about this is that there are moments of profound introspection that I was not expecting, especially from a child character. Like, she's coming to conclusions about herself that someone would after 10 years of therapy. So I was just impressed by that. And because it's delivered with that kind of bluntness that children have, and, you know, sometimes they don't really realize the weight of their words, it made it even more impactful for me. And like, there was a moment where she was in an abortion clinic and talking about how she was comforting other women there, but she was getting more of a kick out of it herself. Like, she was being there for them because she liked the way it made her feel, like the feeling of being needed. And then there was another segment on why she always wants to have sex despite the fact that she doesn't enjoy sex. Like, she finds it incredibly painful, but she still like uses sex as a way to, I don't want to say feel, but it's that kind of like thing of like confusing sex for love, and like that's all she's kind of good for. And it's like moments of just such clarity that really surprised me about this, because there is a lot where she's just waffling on and talking utter shite, but then there's these moments like drizzled throughout that really got me, and I think that's what made this a 3-star read for me. And like, even the format of it was quite interesting, like reading through the dream maps and even just reading what the characters were saying to each other, like the fact that it is written like it's a script and that there's character direction and there's internal thoughts of the characters as well. It just made it a bit more, I suppose it had a bit more immersion to it. But yeah, I say, like, check this out if you're into experimental like literature. If not, I feel like this could be something that's really like hit and miss for people. But if you're someone who enjoys like introspection and reading about like really hard to read topics, definitely check it out. Good morning. So it is Wednesday, and so far so good with the reading. I'm on track. I'm going to be starting The Colour Purple later on today. I was thinking about starting it now, but I don't really have that much time to actually get into it. I'm currently waiting to be picked up by one of my friends, and we're going to go on a little road trip and visit one of my other friends. It's going to be great crack. I haven't seen them in about 4 or 5 months, so I'm desperately craving some human interaction at this point, and I'm just really looking forward to having like just a good fun day. So I probably won't be back until later on this evening. Much later on this evening. It probably won't be until I'm actually sitting in bed that I can start The Colour Purple, but I will check in with you then, and if I do anything interesting with the girls today, I'll film that. Hopefully I don't get sick in the car. I've taken my motion sickness tablets, so fingers crossed for me. Yeah. So I'm back from Limerick now. I had a really great day seeing my friends, and if anything, it's just made me miss them even more, just reminding me of like how much I enjoyed their company and how we can just have such a great laugh together and all that kind of thing. But yeah, we got in after 12, and so it's pretty late. But I did manage to read 30 pages now of Colour Purple while I was in bed, and it's pretty heavy. Like I wasn't expecting sexual abuse to be like right on the first page, but it was. But like, I knew it was in there, but I just didn't realize how soon it was. But aside from that, I think it's pretty interesting. Like, I'm kind of intrigued to get to know the characters and how the story's gonna develop. And I'm just gonna throw this out there. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm assuming that Celie is a lesbian, because there was a tidbit of information in there where her dad was just chastising her for looking at another boy in church, like for winking at him. And she said that like she must have had something in her eye, because she doesn't look she doesn't look at chaps, but she does feel comfortable looking at women. And I was like, I think that's some foreshadowing that she's going to be a lesbian. If not, then it could be some sort of thing to do maybe with her mother, of like some sort of nurturing thing, that she feels comfortable looking at women because she's looking for some sort of like motherly figure, because it seems like her home life isn't that great, you know. So no, it could be that, but I'm hoping that I'm right. I'm right on that, because I don't really pick up on foreshadowing in books quite a lot, but I think that's blatantly obvious there. So yeah, I'm gonna pick it up in the morning, and hopefully I'll read the rest of it tomorrow. It's not too long. It didn't take me too long to read that 30 pages there either. So yeah, I'm glad I've actually started it, because that was like my one goal for today. I knew I wasn't going to get much reading done, but I was like, I want to start it at least, so I've done that, so I'm happy enough with that now. Welcome to Thursday morning, lads. Look at the pancakes I just made. Don't they just look unreal? Hey, so I probably shouldn't have left it so long to check in, because I'm feeling very deflated now, but I have read nothing but The Colour Purple today. I've read 200 pages. I'm literally 30 pages away from finishing it, but I think I'm just going to call it a day, because I'm feeling very kind of like emotionally drained. Basically, two things have happened on the heel of each other that has upset me. And I just feel like the rug's been pulled out from underneath me, really. I wasn't expecting it, but it's happened now, so there's nothing I can do about it. It isn't as depressing as I thought it would be. I'm just, you know, like I haven't done anything else all day, but I'm just kind of taking things a bit personally. So I would say my favorite character so far is Sophia. Just because if there's going to be a character in here that I can kind of relate to, it would be Sophia. I just really like what she stands for, and how she just doesn't take any of her husband's bullshit. And one of the things that happened quite early on, I'm pretty sure it was Celie and Sophia talking. I'm not annotating this book because it's a library book, but I'm pretty sure it was them. And like, Celie puts up with a lot of shit. Like, everyone's always putting her down, calling her ugly, calling her stupid, this and that, saying she's useless. It's awful. It's upsetting. But Sophia was kind of questioning her, being like, how can you put up with this? And I think this was a great insight to Celie's character, where Celie responded saying that, like, well, anything that she puts up in this life is worthwhile, because she knows that in the next life she's not going to have to put up with anything like that. She knows that it's like, you know, there's going to be no pain, no suffering, no nothing. And that made me feel so sad for her. Just like, but you know, it is also eye-opening as to like, that's how she, like, you know, she talks herself out of ever like talking back or standing up for herself or anything like that. Like, she's quite like a mousy character in the beginning. I do really like the contrast between the letters, between Celie's letters and then her sister Nettie's letters. The fact that it shows like, Celie writes, the way she spells words is phonetically. So for example, orchestra was spelt with a K. And I feel like that really helps me kind of get myself into the world, because I can read in the accent better. Like, I don't mind when authors will kind of spell things differently to emphasize the accent, or to emphasize certain things about the character, like the lack of education, which is what's happening in this. And then, you know, her sister Nettie is the one who went off and educated herself, and there was such an emphasis, especially at the start, about how Nettie's the one who always studies and all this kind of thing. So it is nice to see the contrast between the two sisters and the letters back and forth. Something else that's happening while I'm reading this, which is really weird, is that I'm having like a weird nostalgic feeling, because I know for a fact that I have never ever read this before, but it keeps reminding me of like 2008, 2009, like when I was in secondary school. And I don't know if it's like the font or even maybe the texture of the paper possibly, but it is kind of bringing me back to being in secondary school for whatever reason. And it's kind of strange, but I think it is adding to my reading experience that I have this kind of like nice feeling associated with it. But yeah, I've never really experienced that before, so that's kind of weird. I think it's just because it's reminded me of a book that I could have possibly read when I was in secondary school, but yeah, so that's weird. But yeah, I feel like this is probably going to be a 4-star read. Just the way it's going at the moment. I am really enjoying it, and I am kind of annoyed at myself that I waited so long to read it. To be fair, like I know Alice Walker is kind of problematic in the last couple of years, the things that have come out about her and what she's been kind of promoting and stuff. But you know, sometimes you got to read things that from authors that you may not 100% necessarily agree with, and it is all kind of weird though. Anyway, yeah, I think I'm just going to call it a day with it, and I will finish it off tomorrow, and then I'll let you know my final thoughts. Hopefully things work out. That's what I'm really hoping for, because it feels like it's not going to work out for anyone at the moment. Hey, yeah, so it's Friday, and this is probably going to be the only chance today for me to check in with you and talk to you about the colour purple, as I'm currently getting ready to go over to one of my friends' houses. So I'm going to be putting on a little bit of makeup. I'm going to be using the Baby Got Peach palette because my Colourpop order showed up today. So I will say, if you are a sad Irish person like myself and you want to buy yourself some things from America to make yourself feel better about the current climate, bear in mind that you will be charged a flat rate of €10 by An Post on top of custom fees and on top of VAT fees. That was delightful this morning. Like, I hadn't even gotten the Sudocrem off my spots yet when I had to run out and greet the postman, and he wanted €22 off me instead of the 12 that I'd worked out for the customs fees. So I was like, I was sickened. But yeah, at least I know for next time. So hopefully this is pretty good. Anyway, I finished the colour purple maybe about 2 hours ago, and honestly I'm really happy with how it ended. I know I was feeling really cruddy about things yesterday, but without giving it away, I'm satisfied by the ending. It wrapped up quite nicely, and I actually got really emotional over the last couple of pages. I wasn't expecting that, but I don't know if it could just be that, like, you know, hormones and stuff. I always say, you know, when I get emotional about books and stuff, I'm like, it's just my hormones. Like, no, maybe it's just good writing. Maybe it's good writing that makes me cry. So I ended up giving Colour Purple 4 stars, like I thought I was going to. I feel like that accurately sums it up, at least for me, my reading experience. There was a couple of twists in there that took me by surprise, and it definitely got like a lot happier after those couple of pages that I was given out about yesterday. I will say though, like, character-wise, I pretty much liked everyone aside from Shug and Albert, or Mr. Blank as he's called. I really disliked Shug, and I don't know if that's just a me thing, or is that like the common consensus between people, because like the first thing when you're like introduced to her is that she's insulting Celie, calling her ugly. And then yesterday I had hit a point where Shug just did something really shitty to Celie and was just kind of selfish and stuff. And I was really pissed off yesterday. I was really annoyed about it. Definitely Celie and Nettie's story rather than Celie and Shug's story. At least that's how I felt about it. But I definitely recommend it if you have not read it yet. It's not difficult to get into. It's not a hard read. There's, like I said, some of the sexual abuse is quite difficult to read, but that's really at the very start, which is quite jarring to start like a book like with the first page with that kind of thing. I think it's definitely a worthwhile read, and it is quite different to how I expected it was going to be. I don't know what I really thought about it. Like, I'd heard so many kind of like mixed things about it over the years that I really didn't really have, you know, that much of a clear idea of what the story actually was about. And it's just, like I said, it's more of a story about sisterhood. Delighted to have finally gotten through it. I'm going to be returning it to the library quite shortly. So this is the final look, and I absolutely love it. I would definitely recommend these palettes. Like, the colour payoff is ridiculous, especially since I didn't think it was going to be this pigmented, considering I don't use any sort of like eye primers or anything like that, but I'm pretty happy with this. I feel like, aside from being charged that extra €10, I feel like it was well worth the money. And to be fair, I haven't bought myself any eyeshadow palettes in about 6 years, and I'd completely hit pan on my Gwen Stefani Urban Decay palette, so that's why I literally needed to buy something new. So you're going to be seeing a lot more colourful looks from me in the future, because I bought like the mint palette and a few other ones, so get ready for it. It's going to be amazing. Hey, yeah, so it's Saturday afternoon and I'm literally about to head right out the door because I'm going into town to meet one of my friends. It was her birthday during the week and I didn't get to see her. So I'm meeting up with her now, and we're just going to go to a cafe and get some food and have a nice little catch up because I haven't seen her in quite some time. Last night was really good. I ended up staying much longer than I thought I would. At a certain point, I just looked at my phone and it was after midnight. I was like, I gotta go home. So yeah, I think that goes to show that I had a really good time when I lost track of time like that. And yeah, at a certain point I cried from laughing so hard. Yeah, pretty good night. So I'm going to be starting the Terror when I get back. I was thinking about, original plan was to start it last night, but that didn't happen. So I'm going to try to start it when I come home later on, and hopefully I enjoy it. I'm kind of iffy about it because I read like a page or two when I got it the other day from the library. And I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to be into this or not, but I'll give it a go later on and I'll let you know my thoughts on it and whether I'm going to be reading it or not. So I am now 200 pages into The Terror. When I first started reading this earlier, I was really iffy by page 20 on it. I was like, I don't know if I'm into this. I don't know if I want to read this, like it's 900 pages long. I don't know if I want to dedicate my time this weekend to reading this or picking up something shorter instead. And after that, I just really got into the story because the whole monster business in this happens pretty quickly. I thought it was going to be like 500 pages in, the monster stuff wouldn't happen. But no, like it's starting from the very beginning, so that has my attention. And it's written in third person, but it jumps around from chapter to chapter from different characters. So there's like two ships involved, and it jumps back and forth between the two ships, and the captain's perspectives and the doctor's perspectives, and like, the head honchos and all that kind of thing. But I'm finding that like at the end of almost each chapter, something interesting happens. And I keep finding myself being like, okay, just one more chapter, just one more chapter. Like right now I want to go to sleep because I'm tired. My eyes are starting to do the thing where they're getting all drowsy and stuff, but I kind of want to keep going. So I might just read just one more chapter and then call it a night. But yeah, just hit the 200 page mark. So I'm really happy that I got that much read today because I really didn't think I'd get that much done. So yeah, I will talk to you in the morning. Good morning, so I'm on my third cup of tea and I'm about to get out of bed and properly start the day, but in the last hour and a half I've managed to read another 120 pages of The Terror, so I'm now at 321, which I feel like is pretty good. So to give you like a brief synopsis of what's going on so far, because I don't think I really did it the other day, it's about a ship called Terror, and the captain of Terror is Captain Crozier, who's an Irish man, so he's like one of my favourite characters so far because I'm just naturally biased towards Irish characters. And but there was a really about 250 something pages in, there was a really awkward scene in one of his chapters where he was recounting a sexual experience he had. And first of all, I'm kind of wondering as to why that was there, because it just felt really out of place, but I imagine it's just there to demonstrate the fact that he's just like not a man who's 100% devoted to the sea. But it's like it took place in a platypus pond, and it was just a bit cringy, and I realized I just don't like reading about sex from a man's perspective. I think that's what it is, and that's why I get kind of embarrassed about it, because usually if I'm reading about sex in a book, it's usually from a male perspective. So yeah, I'm having a few revelations about myself. But aside from that, I'm really digging it. I'm really digging the fact that it's about this ship that's frozen in the Antarctic and they're there for months on end, and I'm wondering when I figure people are gonna, aside from the monster stuff, I figure people are gonna start turning on each other and start getting paranoid because the food's gonna start running out soon. They're already kind of on rations, and hoping that the ice is gonna thaw so they can actually move the ship and get to where they're going. But it's a hope. There's no definite that the ice is actually gonna melt. So yeah, it's really good so far. Another favorite character of mine is Lady Silence, who just seems like a total badass. She hasn't been in it much so far, but I feel like her story is going to really come into play towards the ending. At least because I just kind of have 3 potential endings as to how this book is going to end. So I'm going to wonder if I'm right or not, but hopefully one of them will be correct. Anyway, listen, I'll check in with you later on and let you know how I'm getting along with it. Good afternoon. So I'm just out of the shower with some freshly dyed hair because my blondie roots were driving me up the wall. I still need to do my brown roots, but whatever. But I'm feeling a little bit better about myself now. So I'm currently on page 419 of The Terror. I feel like there's been some seriously cracking good moments in this so far. I feel like I'm getting through it quite quickly as well. Something that I really like is like I'm about to start Good Sir's chapter, and Good Sir is a character who I've started to really like because he is the doctor on The Terror, and I didn't really like his chapters at first because they're all in journal diary format, and I'm really, like I said the other day, I'm really not a fan of that. However, I've discovered that his chapters are some of the like goriest ones because he's the doctor on the ship. He's talking about everyone's ailments. He's talking about people who've lost fingers and toes to frostbite. He's talking about the people whose bodies he had to autopsy after they've been attacked by the monster. And it's just all the gross, gory details of what's really happening. And I'm kind of living for it. I'm really enjoying it. And I feel like I'm getting through this like ridiculously fast. And it's surprising because when I first talked about this book in my horror video, this was one of the books that I was kind of least interested in picking up, or like least kind of motivated. I'd read about the synopsis and I was like, I don't really know if I'm going to like about, you know, a book that's just talking about what's happening on the ship this whole time. And I have kind of struggled with some of the language in it because I'm not that familiar with how ships work or what, you know, people's various jobs are and stuff. So I have had to Google a few things, but Google's been my friend. Like, it hasn't actually been that difficult whatsoever. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident about this, and I just love the fact that I'm kind of binging my way through this because I haven't had a binge read probably since Battle Royale, which I think I read that in February of this year, so it's been a good while. Good evening. So this is probably going to be my final check-in of the night, but I have read 333 pages of The Terror today. I'm on page 533, and I'm still enjoying it as much as I was last night. Like, I'm still gripped. I haven't had any lulls yet. Like, everything that's happening in the story is making sense to me. There's been no bits that have been dragging, which I was expecting because a couple of people commented on my horror video saying like they found this to be quite draggy in the middle, and I'm past the midpoint now and I haven't had any issues with that. I think they might have been referring to maybe some of the flashbacks that happen in this, but I feel like all the flashbacks are quite relevant to the story, even though I was getting all triggered this morning. But I feel like it's just rounding out the characters and kind of making you feel more invested in them, so that when something bad happens on the ship or like the monster appears or whatever, you're rooting for people, and there's certain people that you don't want to die because like you're invested in their character. So maybe it's that bit that people didn't really like, because yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be a bit long-winded, but I think it's perfectly fine. So yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. I'm excited to get it finished. I'm hoping now to get it finished, since it's bank holiday weekend, that I'll have it finished by Monday, and that means that I read 3 books this week, so I will be delighted with that. So I'll check in with you tomorrow. Hey, so welcome to the final check-in of the week. It's bank holiday Monday and I have finished The Terror amazingly, because I realised going through footage from yesterday that I thought yesterday was actually Saturday, and when I said I hope to have it finished by bank holiday Monday, I didn't realise that it was today. So that was definitely more motivation for me to actually get it done. And to be fair, well, it did take me a while. Like, I spent about 7 hours or so today reading, and I actually just got back from the library because I was like, I need to get out for a good, long, decent walk and just get the blood pumping again. So I left all the books that I'd read back. So yeah, I gave Terror 4 stars in the end, and like a lot of that star rating is just due to my kind of like the binge read worthiness of it, and the fact that I haven't read like anything horror related in a while. And I rate books kind of differently. Like, they're like 4 stars doesn't necessarily mean 4 stars. Like, if you want a video on how I rate books, so you'll have a clearer idea of
my liking of them, I can always do that, because it is like I rate by genre. So like a 4-star book in the horror genre isn't going to be the same as a 4-star book in the classic genre or anything like that. It's kind of weird, but I have my own ways. So it didn't end the way I was expecting it to end, which I'm not mad about, because I still really liked the ending of it. Especially, oh no, I'd be giving too much away actually if I was just about to say what I was going to say. This is really hard because I want to talk about like specific things that I really liked, but I'd actually just be spoiling the ending. Shit. Let me know how you want me to do this in the future, because this is kind of difficult. Okay, what will I say about it? Okay, so scurvy is horrifying. Let's just go with that. I didn't, as someone who's made scurvy jokes in the past, I never realized how horrifying scurvy actually is. Like I thought you just got fatigued from it and all that kind of thing. Like you start bleeding from your scalp. Like the descriptions of what was happening to these men was awful. It was so gross. It really was, you know, I was reading those chapters and getting really grossed out. And there's a lot of death in it, which I was expecting. But there's also a good amount of backstabbing in it, which I was also expecting. But there's some like really kind of petty moments in it, and you just want certain characters to get their comeuppance because they're just such arseholes. And I was kind of a little bit disappointed on that front. There was like one particular character who, I suppose he did get his comeuppance, but I just wished what he did was exposed to the group sooner, basically. Also, there was another issue I had with a certain moment where Captain Crozier, who I said was Irish, he is Irish, but it's quite early on in the book where he starts chanting about like Britons will never be slaves and stuff, as if he's British himself. And I just thought that was really weird, because considering the date that this was taking place, I don't think any Irish man would ever chant that, regardless if he was actually like working in Britain or anything like that. And I was just kind of like, I wish he would have, like, the actual Englishmen were chanting that, and then he would say something in Irish to be like, because he refers to being Irish now and again, and like thinking back to being in Dublin as a young boy and stuff like that. So that would have been something that I would have liked. That was kind of like my only kind of qualm with how Crozier was written. I'm not selling this very well, am I? Basically, if you dig like character driven stuff, if you dig horror in the Arctic or in snow, where there's like no way of calling for help, kind of like isolated horror, I suppose, you'll definitely dig this. I mean, I really didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. I thought it was good fun for what it was, and there was a really good moment where these men were coming through an area that they'd already been, and they were like, wait a second, something's off about this. That boulder wasn't here beforehand. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my god, it's the monster! And then it's just like, it was just good crack. I loved Lady Silence's storyline. She did come back into the book. There was a good portion of the book where she wasn't in it at all, but she did come back into the book, and it was funny because there was like racist elements towards her, because like these men, these British men, they think they're so much better than her and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, they literally couldn't survive out there by themselves at all. They didn't know how to fish, they didn't know how to do anything, and ended up having to really try to rely on her and find out the ways of like her people and how they fish and how they cope with living out in these freezing cold temperatures. Sorry about that, I had to go downstairs for a second. But anyway, I can definitely see though why some people would find this book like really boring, or they'd find it long-winded or just hard to read. I feel like I'm able to put on the blinders a lot with certain books and just get through it. I do kind of force myself through things now and again, but like I said, I was just Googling the things that I didn't understand, or certain terms that I didn't understand, and I didn't really, like, I guess that's annoying to have to stop and pick up your phone and then, you know, you get distracted with your phone. I think this is definitely for like a certain type of horror reader though. Like I feel like some people would even be disappointed with the level of horror in it. The fact that you don't really find out what the oh no, okay. I'm gonna start spoiling things again. Anyway, I'll wrap it up before I say too much. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I feel like I had a pretty good reading week. I managed to get the reading challenge down to 6 books behind rather than 10. However, it did actually go up twice while I was reading, so we're currently at 7, I think. I don't want to look at it, to be honest. Screw Goodreads, it doesn't matter. But yeah, and I'm probably not going to read for another while after this because I'm just like, I read 3 books, I'm grand. Let me know your thoughts on this. I think next time I'm going to make a few changes if I ever do a reading vlog again. Like, I'm not going to do it off my phone, I'll do it off my real camera. I don't like the inconsistencies and the shaky cam and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Fair play if you got through it to this point, and I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.